Alright guys, welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial, and today we are going to be talking about SCM, or Source Control Management, otherwise known as Scrum. So essentially, let's pretend that you're in a scenario where you may be working with multiple different people on a project, or let's say you have an office computer or your friend's computer, and then you have your home computer. And let's say that you're working really hard on this game, but when you go to your office computer, maybe you do a whole bunch of things, and then you want to, keep working on that same project, not on your office computer, but maybe on your home computer. Or let's say, for example, maybe you make a whole bunch of changes to a project, you realize you don't really like those changes, and you want to go back to an older version of the project. All of these things that I just described are various reasons why you need a source control management software. And today we're going to be looking at the most foundational one and the most widely used one in the software development industry. And that is going to be Git and GitHub. So didn't mean to move that. I'll show you guys why I moved that in a second. But essentially we're going to be using that for Unreal Engine 5, and my main choice for that is it seemed like the easiest kind of get you guys going. It's the standard in the software development space. Perforce is the standard in game development, but for software engineering specifically, Git and GitHub is pretty much the standard, and it's a really useful skill, and it's going to allow you guys to essentially start a project on one computer and simultaneously continue it on multiple other computers, and you don't lose any of your work. So, and if you have some experience with Git or GitHub, maybe you're not one of our members here watching this video, if you're just a passerby, there's many different ways to set this up. This is just the easiest way I found to do it, and there's no right way to do this, but this is the way I found is the easiest. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this tutorial video. So as you see here, I have just the blanket third person starter content pretty much open here. It's the third person game template that you can pretty much open in Unreal Engine 5. So to get started here, let's go ahead and get the source control stuff all downloaded. So you're going to need to download a couple things to get going here. The very first thing you're going to need to download is going to be Git. So you get to this website here by just going to Google, typing in Git download, and you'll just click right here. You can click right here too, and you'll click Windows for me, your Mac, something else, and as you see it's downloading here. I won't download it because I already downloaded it, but that's how you download it. And essentially this is what's going to allow us to, this is the software we need to actually start doing source control. Now, a great add-on to this that I definitely recommend you have for specifically Unreal Engine 5, you're doing normal software development, you won't need this, but is also Git large file storage, or Git LFS. So to get to this, it's pretty much the same process. You'll go to Google, you'll type in download Git, but now you'll type in long file service, and you'll click enter, and then there it is, and then you'll just click download just like so. And we'll download it right here, which I will again cancel because I don't need it. And I'll go ahead and remove these two things. So those are those two. So those are the first two things I recommend you guys get. And then the last thing is going to be GitHub Desktop, which is right here. To download GitHub Desktop, you'll just go to Google. You'll type in GitHub Desktop. Download. And you can get it for Mac too, but it's right here. You'll click on this, you'll just click download GitHub Desktop, and again, it will download the software right here. So those are the three things that you'll need to download to be extremely effective. Git is the actual software and the code for using source control, and then GitHub Desktop is kind of like the application or the graphical user interface that's just going to make it a little bit easier to perform the commands. So that's essentially what this is. And let's go ahead and look at the last thing you're going to have to do here, and that is to make a GitHub account. So to make a GitHub account, you're just going to type in GitHub, just like so. Not desk download, just GitHub. Type it that, and here's GitHub, and you'll just click on the first link. Here it is, and then you probably won't have an account. As you can see, I'm already signed in on my account, but it will take you to a website and you will just make an account, and you'll know you made an account when you get this screen here, right? So let's go ahead and talk about what GitHub is. GitHub is essentially a server that essentially stores all your code. It's a website, right? It's a website that allows you to essentially track any changes that you make to your game and publish them to this server and database. And you can have public repositories which allow anybody in the world to see your code. You also have private repositories which only you can see. Again, there's no right or wrong to public or private. Just know the differences between the two and you should be good. And there are many, many different things you can view here in GitHub. You can look for stuff like, I don't know, Python code. I can search all of GitHub, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of stuff here in Python that many talented software engineers have made. But this is essentially where a lot of code is stored. And just like that, you will also have your own portfolio and your own code base right here. And here would be all your repositories here. So let's make sure that we do a clear distinction here. This is the website, right? This is the website. And then this, which is GitHub Desktop, is your desktop client, right? And we'll get into that more, but it's a very clear distinction here that this is the website, and then you'll also have your local files as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So after you go ahead and now create your GitHub account, next you're going to go to your desktop or wherever you downloaded GitHub Desktop, and you're going to go ahead and open it, and you're going to create an account in here. So if maybe it's signed into somebody else's account or something like that, or something weird happened, right, you're just going to go to options and then just make sure that it says your name right there, and that's how you know you've signed in. Don't worry about GitHub Enterprise. That's something different. We're just doing the basics of Git today. So right here, and then here you can also check some other settings and stuff as well. You don't have to worry about that now, but as you can see, I am now all signed in. So after you have all of that stuff out of the way, let's go and look at how you create a GitHub repository. So we're going to go back to our Unreal Engine project, and we're just going to come down here to this little button here, and I'll go ahead and show you guys this a little bit better because it may be hard to see here. Let me move my thing. There's going to be a button right here that says source control. My image on the screen is covering it, but this is the little button. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and I'm going to click connect to source control. Okay, and then I'm going to get something like this that's going to pop up. I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm going to say Git right here, which is the source control I want to use. And I'm actually going to go ahead and check all of these right here and make sure all of these are selected. Then I'm going to go ahead and say initialize project with Git. This is now going to create a new local, it's not on the server yet, a local repository on my desktop. So now essentially that software Git that I downloaded is now tracking changes that I make to the files and keeping a log for me. That's all this does. It does not push it to the website yet. Okay, so this is now Git on my desktop that I just downloaded is tracking my changes, and I know this it is because I now have a green check mark here next to the source control. So if I went ahead and started making changes here to my level, for example, I changed this out, I scaled this out, and all this kind of stuff. As you can see, if I go ahead and click on the source control here, I can now submit those changes, and then I can actually make notes. Oh, hold on, let me save, boom, right. Submit changes. And it's gonna ask me for notes, and as you can see, it tells what I changed and all that kind of stuff as well. Now, whenever you make a change to your project and you submit the changes, you'll always need to create a description. So made minor change to level. And then you'll click submit. Okay? And just like that, it has submitted that minor change to your level. Also, whenever you make edits to the level and you haven't committed the changes, if you go to your content drawer, and I can now go to my level, see here, maps, you'll actually see if I save this and exit off of it, I will have check marks next to things I've changed. So let's see here. Let's say I change this material to be pink, and I click OK, and I click save, and I come back. it has this nice little red check mark here indicating that it hasn't been source controlled yet. So if that has that red check mark, that means I haven't committed the change, and that's why the red check mark is there. So just like that, you're able to actually track all the changes you make to your project. Now, that does not mean that they saved to the repository on the website. That means that your computer is just tracking the changes, but they haven't been made to the actual online repository yet. So what does that mean? That means that if you tracked all the changes just like this, that's fine, but if you went back home and tried to pull it on a different computer, you wouldn't be able to, because you need to actually push it to GitHub in order for other computers or other clients to access it. So let's go ahead and look at actually setting up the GitHub repository. So I have created a local repository. Now I can come here to GitHub Desktop, right here, and there's a couple ways to do this. You can either click Add here, Add Existing Repository from your desk drive, or if this doesn't pop up at all, you're going to come here to File, and you're going to do Add Local Repository. And again, just make sure that you're signed in to your account, okay? So I'll do it here, or you can do it here. Either one is fine. I'll click Add Existing Repository. Now, very important, all Unreal Engine 5 projects will always save in the same place. Write this on your hand, write this down. I also have it pretty much laid out all in my guide as well, but be sure you know this. All Unreal Engine 5 projects will save underneath your file. It's going to be File here. So it's going to be File, Documents, Unreal Engine Projects. If you want to pull an Unreal Engine 5 project, it has to be in this directory. This is where all your projects are. Always, always, always. Very important to know. So here's the path. So it's under Documents, Unreal Engine Projects. And there's the entire path. So if you need the path here, if you're a little bit more advanced. But essentially, it's underneath your documents in the Unreal Projects folder. So I'm going to click Add New Repository. I'm going to click Choose. I'm then going to go Documents. I'm then going to go Unreal Projects. And then I'm going to select my project here, which is this one. And that's now going to add my repository to Git Desktop for tracking. So I'm tracking this right now with Unreal Engine, but now I actually want to push it to GitHub on the website. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. It's going to ask me if I want to initialize Git long file support or large file support. I'm going to say yes. And just like that, you'll actually see down here at the bottom, here's where it's tracking my changes. So any changes I make to the file here, it actually will track them, and I can actually show the history and the changes that I made just like that, and it's all being tracked here. And then here are the new changes that have been made. Now, if I want to publish this repository to GitHub, I'm just going to click Publish Repository. So let's go ahead and go to the website here and see how this works. Currently, right now on GitHub, I have no repositories. So if I refresh here, you'll see there's nothing, right? So let's go ahead and see here. When I click Publish, this is then going to actually create a repository on the website. Now, before I do that, there's one small thing that I have noticed that I need to change in order for GitHub to essentially act correctly. And that is I need to change the gitignore file. So I don't want to go super deep into what gitignore does, but essentially the gitignore file tells Git, the software tracking system, to ignore certain files, not to push to GitHub. This is so that it doesn't take forever to pull your code or to make changes and update the project. It's essentially done for efficiency. But I have noticed an issue with the binary files, because the binary files are what comprise assets in the level, and sometimes I'll make a change to the level and it won't be saved because essentially it wasn't tracked correctly. So to pull this up right here, it's going to be under Documents, Unreal Engine Projects, and then you're going to go to your project, which in my case is Git Tutorial, and then I'm going to go to the gitignore file, which is right here. You can get to it by either clicking on your file directory here and doing the exact path I just showed. Again, that was Documents to Unreal Engine 5 projects, to your project name, to the gitignore file. You can also come right here to your current repository. Make sure this is the same name as your project down here. You can right click on this. You can click Show and Explore, and it's going to pop up here. And you'll see again that's Documents, Unreal Engine Projects, GitHub tutorial, and then here's your gitignore file. Go ahead and open this up and whatever app you want, preferably Notepad. And then you're just going to delete the binaries right here. This will make it so that any changes to your level will actually be permanent. It's something that, I've noticed that I've had to do in order to fix some stuff. Okay, so there you go. Now here's where you can create your description. You can also create your description down here in Unreal by clicking again this little green box here and doing submit changes. Either one's fine. Since I've showed this one before, I'm going to show you how to do it on GitHub desktop, but they do the same thing. I'm going to say made small change to gitignore file. Okay, there we go. And this also allows people to see what's going on in your project. So I'm going to go ahead and say commit to master or main, whatever your branch gets called, can be whatever you want. All right, there you go. And then to publish your repository to the server, you're going to go ahead and click publish repository here or publish repository here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. I'm going to keep the name the same. You can either do it private or public. I recommend private because you can always make it public later, but if you make something public, it can't go back to private. We'll go ahead and publish this. And as you can see, this will take some time, the first push here, because it's pushing so much stuff, right? Unreal Engine 5 projects take up quite a bit of space. So it does take it a second to actually push the changes to GitHub here. So we'll go ahead and let that go. If you were actually working on a project here, you could actually start making changes here and, still doing the same thing here, tracking your changes with Git and then pushing them to GitHub. So we'll let this go ahead and publish. Give it a second here. But as you'll see here in a second, it will actually pop up now as a repository up here in a second. Here it is. So once you see it up here, you know that it's been changed. Like this is now on the website, part of the server, part of GitHub. And this is when you know you can actually pull the files down from here back to any computer and you know you're successfully tracking the changes. So that's when you know everything's been successful and as you see it's fully pushed. So let's now go look at the GitHub repository. I go ahead and click here and it has all my stuff here. It says I made the false file change, right? Here's the initial commit. Here's the other stuff. Everything looks good. And here's all like the little comments as well. And essentially it keeps track of everything right here. So essentially if I'm starting to design my level here, and let's say I build this out over here and I rotate it, maybe I'm making like a platformer game or whatever I'm making and I build like a respawn system and whatever, right? And let's say, this takes me some time. So I'm designing my game and I'm like, all right, I gotta go. Something happened, maybe my computer crashed, hopefully it didn't crash, but maybe I just gotta go suddenly for some reason. Time to go ahead and source control this. So again, the source control, there's a source control button down here. You can't see it because of my head. So I'm just going to move this so you can see. I'm going to click this. I'm going to click submit changes. And then I'm going to type in made minor level changes. And then you can add whatever comments you want, right? This is a tutorial, so I'll just keep it that. You'll go ahead and click submit. And just like that, it will submit your changes to source control. That's the first step. That's the add and commit step, but now you need to push it. And as you see, it's tracked my change. So now I'm going to go push origin and then it's been committed to the server. Okay. So as you can see, now when I go back up to GitHub, this is now pushed correctly. So now when I go back to GitHub, I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And as you see, it has the new change right here, made minor change to level, and it will tell you the time. So that is how you track your changes with GitHub and Git. This is an incredibly important skill and I tried to do it the easiest way I could find. Let's go ahead and look at the last thing now, which is let's pretend that you are all done with your project and you need to now open it up on a different computer or get a older version of the project or essentially clone your project for whatever reason. First off, let's go ahead and look at the idea of fetching or pulling old code. So let's say you made some changes at home, right? And you want to essentially get the latest version of the project, all you're going to do is open up your GitHub desktop. You're going to do all of the things that you've done before, and you're just going to do fetch origin here. And if this says fetch origin, it will fetch the latest version of your project. So that is if you have the project on your computer and you're all set to go. Or let's say you make a whole bunch of changes. Like let's say you made this, red, but you didn't like the color. Let's make it a different color. Let's say I made this like blue, right? And I save it here, but then I decide, oh, I didn't like the color blue. As you can see, I can fetch the origin, and hopefully this will sync it back up here. I guess I have to close it. Yeah, I'd have to close the project. But it will allow you to revert back to old changes, essentially. Okay, so if you made a whole bunch of mistakes, you can always fetch the origin and change things up that way. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and look at how to pull an entirely new project down. So let's go ahead and say that I've been tracking my changes, everything is great, but let's pretend that for some reason, here's the file and here's the project. Let's pretend that this just gets deleted for whatever reason, right? Or it gets corrupted or something happens, or maybe I'm on a different computer. Maybe I did a whole bunch of work on my friend's computer or my office computer, and now I want to go home and work on it more, but obviously I don't have that project on my home computer. How do I get it from GitHub to my home computer? Well, let's go ahead and look here. As you can see, I just deleted the project, so it has no idea where it's at. So I'm going to click remove. And essentially on your home computer, you would have to go through all those same steps that we did. So you'd have to sign in / make an account with GitHub. You would have to download Git, and you would download Git long-term file support, and you would also have to download GitHub desktop. So assuming that you've done all of that, next you're going to go ahead and sign in to your GitHub desktop here. So as you can see, I've already signed in, but then you would sign in here. After you're signed in, you're going to see something like this. So in order to get the project, not push the project, not create a new one, you want to get a original project you were already working on and bring it to your local machine. The way you're going to do that is you're either going to click clone from the internet here, or you're going to click file and you're going to click clone repository, or Control-Shift-O. Either way, doesn't matter what you do, that is how you do it. Now, extremely important notes. Okay, there's very important notes here. All right, so you're going to go ahead and do choose, and you need to make sure that this saves here to your Unreal projects. Again, if it does not save here, you cannot open it. Unreal will always look for this directory unless you change it, and this is where it saves. So make sure you clone your project to the Unreal projects directory. Again, that is underneath documents, Unreal Engine project. So if you're in some weird directory like this or like this for whatever reason, you're going to go documents, Unreal Engine projects, and you're going to double click and you're going to select that folder. Oh, excuse me. There we go. Okay. So there we go. Now, when you want to clone your repository, all your active repositories should be right here. So I just made this repository right here, which was my Git tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one since that's the one I want to clone. And I'm going to go ahead and click clone. And as you can see, it cloned it from this guy. It has everything going. Boom, boom. Everything looks good. We'll give it a second to clone all of it because it is downloading a lot of stuff, as you can see. Give it a couple more seconds here. There it goes. And then again, I'm going to initialize with Git large file supports. And there you go. So now you've essentially fetched the project. You're going to go ahead back to your Epic Games launcher, sign in, all that jazz. Go ahead and click launch. You could also, in the Epic Games launcher, go to library and select it from there. But as you see, Git tutorial is now back here. It wasn't there before because I deleted it. So I'm going to go ahead and now open the project. Boom, and there it is. And as you can see, I didn't change that red block. Remember guys, I never committed this change. to source control. So that's why this is still red. But this essentially saved all the changes that I made, and now I can start actively working on this again, doing the exact same stuff. Okay, just for the record here, after you cloned your project and it's just like this, you do need to reconnect to source control. To do that's fairly simple. You're just going to click this again. You're going to click connect to source control. You're going to come here to Git, and it's already going to recognize that you were tracking this project before, so it's not going to ask you for any fancy stuff. If it does ask you to initialize a GitHub project, that's totally fine. You'll just do the same steps that you saw at the beginning of the video. And that is it, guys. So that essentially is the easiest way that I've found to essentially source control your projects and make it so that you can work on the same project across multiple different computers. And again, Git/GitHub is one of the most important skills for anyone developing stuff in software, and that's why I made a pretty lengthy video discussing it all. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one.